All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're from. Welcome to the Sunday Coffee Klatch. I hope all are doing well. What are you up to? What has your week been up to? Let's see, music. And I tell you, there is not a time that something doesn't go wrong with streaming. There we go. Got some coffee house music going today. We'll see how long this lasts. Nice mellow. Welcome. You're listening to The Light Steve FM. Oh my, what a week. It hasn't been too bad. Although we did have a pretty huge storm on Wednesday. Near tornado weather. Well, they claim I don't know how could it be a EF0. It's tornadoes are rated to from EF 0 to EF 5, 5 being the worst, the most destructive tornado, the strongest one. We had some about 3 weeks ago. We had some, I believe, EF3s and EF4s come through Illinois, down in Streeter and Dwight, Illinois. We had one that struck 2.5 miles from my home here. That wasn't that was probably a EF1 because it was relatively quick. The damage that it did was pretty substantial in the little area that it hit down. But Wednesday was, oh my God, the cloud formation was like something out of either Independence Day or Counters of the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where the ship comes out from the cloud. I mean, it was this big. The rain was blowing sideways. It was a um yeah, the hail. Now hail doesn't always mean tornadoes, but there's never a tornado without hail. But lots of damage. Not as bad as some. We're pretty lucky, and we were really lucky in our particular area. We didn't run out of power, but you go a couple blocks away, and they were out of power. Phone lines and that power lines were all taken down by the storm. Oh, tornadoes! Do you know that 75% of the reported tornadoes in the world are in the United States? Something about the Midwest and the way we're between two, it's actually three bodies of water, the Atlantic, the Pacific, and the Gulf of Mexico. Yes, I said the Gulf of Mexico. And the heat from this, it just, yeah, but tornado, they call it Tornado Alley, but it's been moving. Oh, and then starting tomorrow, actually, maybe a little bit starting today, it's already 76 Fahrenheit. Uh, Supposed to get up in the 80s today, and then it's going to be a rough week. What are we at? 2024 C. We'll be in near 100-degree weather. That's a combined heat index. So in the wintertime, you have your wind chill factors, right? But in the summertime, it's your heat index. And usually that's a combination of high humidity and heat. Got a big heat wave coming off from the Gulf up towards central. So we will be as hot and as humid as Houston, Miami, probably hotter. Miami's usually, yeah, it's 85 majority of the time, high humidity, but you're really surrounded by the water. So it doesn't, it gets hot, but Chicago will actually get hotter than at times Miami or Houston, Texas. Go figure. Go figure. The weather just doesn't change, right? There's no climate change. So we got to look forward to that. My garden's growing pretty well. I have quite a few green peppers going. Uh, Tomatoes are starting to form. Have my raspberry bush is very raspberry. I'm surprised the storm really didn't knock anything out. It did break one of my support poles, which is easy to fix. I'll be out there this afternoon. The plants are growing and so are the weeds. So I got to clean out some of the weeds out of the garden so they don't take up the nutrients that are in there. Exciting stuff, right? Exciting stuff. So what has your week been like? What have you been doing? Um, any good movies you watched during the week or any series? I just finished last night Star Trek Starfleet Academy. Wasn't sold on it at first, but Nova Charter said give it a chance, it gets better, and it actually did. I particularly don't like what I would call a high school aspect to it, but it did pretty well. It did pretty well. My wife and I had just finished last week Mayor of Kingstown. If you ever watched that on Paramount Plus, my God, that is one rough series. It takes place in a fake Michigan town called Kingstown. It's very blue collar, very industrial, and a lot of gangs, a lot of prison stuff in that. We are currently watching. We just started Agency with Michael Fassbender, and then on PBS, Patience. I know over on the UK side, they've gotten to see Patience already. It's season 2. It's about a young lady who has autism that works in a police department, the record department. Or her, I believe her father was a policeman, and her uncle that takes care of her godfather, he was a police officer. So she's got this kind of detective mind. The young lady that plays Patience is autistic herself, or has autism. Should never really say that person is autistic. They have autism. But we're enjoying, we're enjoying it. Only thing on PBS is, we can only watch it one episode at a time. It just started last Sunday. Take that back, 2 Sundays ago. I just got done listening to another Department Q mystery written by UC Adler Olsen. It takes place in Denmark, around Copenhagen, and it's a department that works on cold cases and that. The one I just got done listening to is it's called the Marco Effect. I'm actually listening a little bit out of turn. I've now listened to 5 of the books. uh, I enjoy them. They're making a second Department Q, excuse me, second Department Q series on Netflix. Uh, you know, not exactly like the books. Department Q, the first one, kind of closely did the very first book, but instead of being based in Denmark, it's based in Scotland. The detective is still Carl Molk. But it was a good Netflix series, good enough that they got a second season. But a lot of content there. I do like the one character of Assad in the Netflix series a little bit more than the book, but it's like watching, if you ever watched Longmire, if you were a fan of Longmire, reading the books by Craig Johnson, and you watched the series. The series was good. Went five seasons. Started out on AMC and then ended up on Netflix. Had a pretty good following. Um, the actor that played Walt Longmire was pretty close to my what thought he looked like in the book and that. But as much as I love Katie Sackhoff, her being Vic Moretti was a little off. They tried to explain, the difference, but I mean, I think Katie did a real good job. Like I said, I love her. Um, where I think they kind of went wrong was the version of oh my god, here are my favorite books, and I'm forgetting the characters. Um, I did like Lou Diamond Phillips. He played Henry Standing Bear, but Henry Standing Bear was a lot tougher in the books, um, and a lot more nonsense in that. He was a bigger guy. He was a physical appearance. I think he was Walt's equal. But still, it's a good series to watch. Not everything could be exactly like the books. So, anybody, what's your favorite book? Are you disappointed when you watch a book or a movie? Are you able to separate them? You know, what? How do you do that? You know, um, I mean, it's always the directors or creators' representation of the book. I know most books cannot be word for word written into a script or the intensity of them. Sometimes it's disappointing, sometimes it's not. Um, but yeah, I do. I if it entertains me, I'm okay with it. There's many movies that are not close to the book, or they use the title of the book and maybe the character's name, and like the Jason Bourne, series. Um, I think Matt Damon did a pretty decent job, and it was pretty action oriented in that. They didn't really follow the books a whole lot. And then when they tried to do a little bit of a spin-off with, Jeremy Renner, I think the plan was that the two were going to meet, even though the Jeremy Renner character was never in any of the books. Kind of hate sometimes when they do that. What else? I finally in the tech world, on the cough cough Linux side, um my wife, you know, year about 5 years ago or more. I bought her a nice little Asus, they call them not netbooks anymore, Vivio books. A Vivio book. What the hell's a Vivio book? I don't know. But it was um not much bigger than a tablet, but it had a keyboard, so it has 4 gigs of memory, ooh, and a 32 gig eMMC card, which is basically a nice SSD to run Windows 10, and it actually did pretty decently on that hardware. But the issue with that laptop was it has a 32-bit EFI and a 64-bit system. And let's see, its Wi-Fi card and its soundboard were a little bit different, but I think they actually, like, after version 6 in the kernel were added in. But getting a Linux distribution on that was brutal. Now we had Windows 10 on it until, October coming up with security updates and that. But I've been trying for years to test out Linux on it, and I could never, some I can get to boot up, or it would see the grub and not boot up afterwards. Uh, any of you that do a lot of Linux stuff in that and use a Ventoy stick? Basically, a Ventoy stick it's got a program on there. You don't have to make a bootable USB. You just drag the ISO onto the stick, and the software that's on there from Ventoy will help boot it. You select it, and it will help boot into it instead of having to break it down onto a USB. But it also comes with a couple of bootloaders. Now, when I say EFI and bootloaders, to those I've lost, it's what helps boot up your system. And as far as the difference between 32-bit and 64-bit, that gets lost on me. But it's the way to design. Why Asus designed the book this way, I do not know. I thought it would be perfect for it's called Chrome Flex. It's a version of Chrome OS that you can put on either Chromebooks that went outdated or laptops, Windows laptops, and that. And the Asus, it was an Asus E200H, was not one that you can install on it because the way you have to make a Chrome Flex or a Chrome OS bootable USB doesn't allow itself to do a 32-bit grub, as far as I understand. But Ventoy was the secret. It loaded the 32-bit grub, and now I've actually tested 2 different distributions on it, got them both to install. And my wife she didn't want a tablet. She needed a keyboard. I said, well, I can get you a USB keyboard for the tablet. No, no, no. And I had given her one of my little, HP 8460 laptop to use. And those old HPs are like 12 years old now. Pretty heavy. Battery life is maybe about 2 hours, if that. But I have Linux Lite installed on her little Asus book now, and it works fine. It was a bit of a trouble. Those of you who are trying Linux Lite 8, there's some difficulties in installing it, but it was light enough to run on a 4 gig memory system. It works well once I got it installed. That was my big last week or so, my big trial in trying to get something installed, and I was successful on it. My wife's happy to have her little laptop back because she can, it easier for her to carry around, and it has about 7 hours worth of battery life with Linux on it. A little less than Windows in that, although she leaves it plugged in all the time. So she is happy. She is happy, and happy wife makes happy life, right? Today I'm just on good old fashioned Windows 11. I hear people coughing in the background. But it works for me, and I can get all my streaming stuff to work, usually with no problem. Although, of course, I didn't stream last Sunday because last Saturday, I went to a retirement party. My buddy's wife was retiring, so he threw a party for her. I had about 4 drinks. Was drinking some Don Julio. And reliving our youth. My buddy's daughters made up some Jello shots, so we were doing Jello shots. It was a beautiful night here in Chicago, and my buddy has a nice patio with like a hut, what he calls his tiki hut design over it, and it was a beautiful night. Didn't feel so bad coming home. The best thing about my buddy's house is he's 13 minutes away, so I didn't have far to drive. It wasn't that dry. I mean, I stopped drinking. We talked in his, on his patio for a couple hours afterwards and drank some water and that. I try to be responsible. And I know legally I probably would have, been above the level, but it was 2 hours since I had my last drink. Drove home okay. But I'm not used to drinking. I have a beer maybe if I'm, maybe once a week. Excuse me. So I woke up and said, I'm not streaming. Plus, it was Father's Day. I was going to then do a stream in the afternoon because my wife had to work. We were going to go to my her stepmom's. And I just, I couldn't. So I haven't streamed. I streamed Thursday for the first time in a week. We did some geoguessing, which is always fun. I like to geoguessing. But a pretty decent week. Bad. I had some little bad news. One of my friends, longtime friends, went to the hospital because of high blood pressure. And thankfully, he was in the hospital because he had a stroke overnight. Then they kept him overnight, and he had a stroke while he was overnight. But he was sent home yesterday, so now he's gonna start working out rehab. But he's okay. It's gonna be a bit of a recovery. It wasn't a real bad stroke, but any stroke is not a good stroke. Little bad news this week, but we had some good weather. Like I said, the garden's going really good. But now with all the weather, we'll get all the so-called roofers wanting to inspect your house. Get a job. I'm sure with this wind and that we had last week, two kind of near tornadoes, I can't really get on a roof anymore. I can probably get on the lower portion, uh, but getting higher up above the room I'm in, I don't know, and you don't know until you look at the roof. So what's going on? You know, uh, what's been your week like? Have you done anything special? Visit family, visit friends. They locked up in your house. My other technical thing, again, it's a Linuxy thing. So on my Linux setup, I run Endeavor OS, which is an Arch-based system. Um, which is an easy install, but Arch is, even Endeavor, I would not recommend for anybody coming straight from Windows, unless you're more of a, experimenter, so to say, and you're willing to put up with a lot of stuff. Just remember, Linux is just so, it is. Even if the distribution says it's Windows like, it's not. There is, it may look like Windows on a particular distribution, they call them, not OSs, but we all call them OSs. It's Endeavor OS. And I like my Endeavor OS. I never thought I would be on an Arch based system. But with my streaming setup, it sometimes is a little more difficult to set things up. Uh, there is no official OBS, which is the software I use to stream. There's no official OBS install unless you use what they call a flat pack version, which just doesn't cut it for me. I've actually been looking at going back to an Ubuntu based system because the official install is for Ubuntu for OBS and the plugins are easier to get and easier to install. So I've been looking at one called Anduin OS, which actually was put together by a Microsoft programmer. And he does say a kind of windowish, but it's just like it really isn't. It's looks maybe where the panel and all that is very Windows like, but everything else is different. It's a newer distribution, but it's a nice distribution. I like it. I actually I'm running on this laptop right now next to me. And it's an older laptop, but it's running an earlier version of Anduin OS, which is still based on Ubuntu 2404. But I installed the 2604 yesterday, but there's no version for Ubuntu for OBS yet for that. I'm waiting for that to come out. But so if you're coming over and you're looking to stream on Linux from Windows and you would stream it on Windows, your closest you're going to be to a Windows install for OBS is on an Ubuntu based system. And you'll have pretty much majority of the plugins that work in Windows, they do have a Linux version. Majority of them now have a Mac version too. So if you stream on a Mac. Installs are a little bit different at times, but I think sometimes actually it's easier on Ubuntu to put in a plugin. The OBS people will say that OBS is good by itself without any plugins. I don't know. I run 34 on my Windows version, 30 plus 31 and 32 over on the Linux version. That's why I can't run the Flatpak. It's designed differently. Now that I lost you with techno babble, what else? My oral surgery that I had, removing a tooth embedded into my jaw, has gone well. I don't even feel that I had anything done there. So that's a plus. Now I wish my hand was better. The carpal tunnel surgery actually has not done anything. I still have no real feeling in my thumb and very little feeling in the side of my index finger on this side. But I think I've let this issue go for too long. Let's see. I'm gonna find some other music here. It's nice and mellow, but let's pick it up a little bit. What do we want to play today? Oh, what do I want to? So I use YouTube music as my background music. Again, if you are on YouTube, you'll, even though I'm using YouTube music, you will not hear music on YouTube. I am able to play um, regular music on Twitch. If you watch my VOD on Twitch later, you will not hear music there. You can get away with it live, which makes it nice. Because even if you play uh, royalty free music, and it's marked royalty free, if you I now I'm not monetized at all on YouTube, but um you still can lose some of your monetization for royalty free music, the way YouTube is set up. Like one of my I love music by Scott Buckley, who allows his music to be played. You just have to make a notation in your uh YouTube, not with the title, but with the information below. I usually don't have problems with his, but others that are definitely royalty free, you won't get a strike, but you'll get a note, like a copyright notice, and the portions of your stream can be demonetized because of it still. I get it. I understand it. What do I got a taste for? My wife has been listening to a lot. She loves Bruce Springsteen. Um, she's been listening to a lot of his stuff lately. We watched a Howard Stern interview that he did a little while back, maybe not too long ago. I'll tell you what about Howard Stern. I mean, in his his shock jock days. Um, Here in Chicagoland, we had Steve Dahl, and I guess there was always a little bit of bickering between who's, of course, Stern being in New York was bigger, but I think they both started out kind of in Michigan near Detroit or something like that. And it's like who was first with their shock jock stuff and that. Well, Steve Dahl never became as big as Howard Stern, but one thing Howard Stern had done, he has become a very good interviewer. His Sirius XM shows, his interviews are at times most excellent. He had one with Bruce Springsteen and his band, and it's pretty good if you like Bruce Springsteen and the, and the history of him and that. But I know when hey, he did the Joe Biden interview, and he did he interviews a lot of people. He's really come, over the years he's come into his own. I know here in Chicagoland we didn't listen to him too much, but the year we went to New York, so we went on this long road trip. We went from Chicago to Sandusky, Ohio, where Cedar Point, the amusement park, is. And we stayed 2 days there because it was for my son's birthday in 2013. And then from there, we went to New York, and our tour was going to be New York, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and then over to Gettysburg and back home. It was going to be our longest vacation. I actually got 2 weeks off of work. um, it was a trial, but actually, I had a boss at the time that was, yeah, a bit of a hard ass, but he's like, Steve, if you get to go on a trip like that, I'll make sure that you got it off. So we were going to take my escape because it was a bit bigger, and it was my escape was a 2008. So I forget what year they started changing, but the 2013 was more when the escape was more like a car. They still call it an SUV, which is, they're not SUVs. I'm sorry. They're modernized station wagons is what they are. But it was a nice ride. So mine needed to be repaired, but the part wasn't going to come in until we were on vacation. So we took her car. Her car was new. We broke it in, and she had the free trial of Sirius XM. So we got to listen to all these stations. And one of them, we were flipping through, and Howard Stern was on, and we started listening to Howard Stern. Um, that was that was his really pre-interview days. But when he wasn't being goofy, he was interviewing pretty decently back then. But now I think he's a really good interviewer. I know many out there might not like him because he leans towards the left, and that's too bad for you. So my wife has been listening to a lot of Bruce. Here I'm talking about music. I found something that it's hitting my taste. Let's see. Look at moods and genres. Feeling good. Feel good music. Let's see. YouTube has feeling good in the zeros. Here. Oh, wait. Right. I got to rehook up my monitor here. Here we go. Feeling good in the zeros. Feeling good in the 90s. Feeling good in the 80s. Dancing to the oldies. Dip it low. Indie sleaze. Let's see. Bubble pop. Who wants to listen to some bubble pop? Pop hits. Got some Lofi. Chronic and country. I've never been a big country. Although good friends and cheap whiskey. I think of it as cheap friends and good whiskey is a better choice. Kickback country. Country coffee house. Okay. Sunshine Americana. What is a playlist here? Oh, I've never heard of all these people. Oh, Willie Nelson's in there. No. Let's see. Happy alternative. What's that going to be like? All right, let's change it up a little bit. Some happy alternative, whatever that could be. So on my OBS stuff, for on the Linux side, it's pretty much the same thing. I just changed the colors up. It's pretty much the same thing. I just want to show that you can kind of do Windowsy stuff on OBS in Linux or OBS Windowsy stuff. Not everything's 100%, but my tablets with Touch Portal and then using the StreamRobot deck work the same way. But on the Windows version of Touch Portal for your tablet, you can plug in USB to your PC and connect that way for a better connection. Linux, we use what's called an app image. What one might think, sometimes on Windows you have the exe, right, to install it or run the program in it, and then there's like a .msi, which is like a self-contained Windows app. App images are kind of like that. Everything that they need for the software, you don't have to install it on your system, runs in that. Not quite sandboxed or in that bubble, but you can't use a USB on it. Um, Elgato stuff, some of your more higher end stuff, you're gonna have a harder time working it into your OBS. There are workarounds. There are some open source software for it, but I don't even own any of that stuff. So I try to keep it as simple and cost efficient as possible, but still be able to do things like moving my desktop around, um, my camera. Oh, and then last week too, I ended up having to buy a new monitor, my 27-inch HP, and like the right side here was like all dark and the rest of it was fading through. That has been happening for a while, but I would be able to unplug it, let it cool down, and plug it back in and be fine for the longest time. But then it just really started going. So Best Buy had actually, I didn't need a curve monitor. I don't need a high refresh rate monitor. I don't do gaming, so I don't need it for that. But Best Buy had a 24-inch LG 120 hertz, but it runs on 60 right now because of the other monitors. Regularly 199 for $99. So I went with a smaller one because of my setup, so I could have it with my extra monitor here that I built from a laptop. It's easier. I didn't need bigger, you know. So that was my tech buy for the week, my gift to myself for Father's Day. I had been saving up money for something else, but the monitor. So we have a 32-inch Roku TV with multi HDMI inputs in that. Just not the same off of a PC. It was not extremely clear. But my setup is so you can buy decent monitors. My camera right now is my Samsung. I'm a Samsung. My Logitech 920. I've had these cameras for 10 years. So I have two of them. So this one is a 920. This one's a 920. I was using my. Oh, who is that? Andy? Andy?
Thank you for the 8 long months of subscribing, Andy242.
8 months?
LOL.
Wie geht es Ihnen? Was tut mir leid? How is you doing, my friend? Thank you so much, Andy. You probably thought you were on someone else's channel. I don't know. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But I was using the Samsung S8. Oh, you're not hearing that. God damn. Didn't get to hear the music. It's too warm here. I'm delirious. Yeah, Europe is hitting getting some heat. Content Delta. He lives what, in Belgium? And it was like in the 80s there. Last week, I think, when he was on. Well, Andy, we're going to have a 100-degree heat index for the next coming week. The heat index is combination heat was over 100. Oh my shit! And you guys don't do a lot of air conditioning, right? Yeah, it's supposed to be in the hundreds this week coming up, starting tomorrow. It's going to get really warm. It's already up to 77 here. Well, I mean, majority of your European weather is not, it gets pretty warm. It can, but it's usually on the cooler side. But when you guys get a heat wave, it is bad because many of you aren't. That goes up to I know when there was a couple years ago, there was a bad heat wave that hit uh, Northern Europe into England and all that. But thank you again for the subscription, Andy. That's very nice of you. I really do appreciate that. So how you been? Just talking about some like OBS stuff. So I got a new monitor this past week. Um I didn't go bigger. I actually went so this is a 25 inch. This is a 24 inch. Not actually much difference. This has a larger bevel at the bottom here with the HP logo on it. But now it fits really good over my laptop monitor here, or the monitor I made out of the laptop, so I can have OBS on it and have the chat up where I can read it and a little bit higher and better. She got the big D. Okay. You're on your laptop now. The PC is emitting too much heat. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get my son to uh we'll start turning off the PC this next week because it will be we'll end up running our air conditioner. I try not to, but 100-degree, so it's temp wise, it'll be in the upper 90s, but there's a big front, a humidity front. Humidity front. Yeah, I'm a weather guy. I'm Ryan Hall, y'all. Coming up from the Gulf, stretching up through the Midwest. So I bet you we will be hotter than Houston, Texas. The power grid is going to be stretched, but we haven't used our air conditioning much. I think I put it on for 2 days so far. Because if nothing else, it's been cooling off during the evening. But the humidity part, that's miserable. You don't prefer this? Your brain is not well? Yeah, no one does really well in the heat. Although some people go, oh yeah, you'll see the joggers, people running. It's like, what are you, a moron? Yo, no, I'm healthy. I can do this. This is good. I strive in this. I know Cubicle Nate. He loves running in the heat. But then people will be walking their dogs in the 100-degree weather. Oh, they're fine. Uh, oh, if you're streaming, you can keep it simple. You can use stuff. I mean, you can even use you can add a deck to your phone, like Touch Portal. If you have a phone that you're not using, it was great. Why, the Samsung lasted. S8 was great. More of a high. The picture looks better. Now these night 20s will do good with pretty decent lighting, natural lighting. They do them. They're pretty amazing. But the way my windows are and the way the light, like on this side of the house, the sun travels that way. Anti of what the flat earthers say. So this side can get pretty bright. Now, if I had a window right in front of me, that would even be better. But then the screen's been cracked for the longest time, but it was still functional as a Droid Cam. Now the touchscreen doesn't work at all, so I can't get into Droid Cam. So I got to clean it up and get rid of it. The 920s, I can't remember what I purchased this one of them for. The other one, like they had gone up in price and then they dropped back down. But I think when I bought the second one, it was $54 US. That S8 had lasted a while. Yeah, it did. I mean, my retirement present was my Pixel X, Pixel 8a Pro, and uh went a Pixel because now it's got 7 years of updates. The S8, yeah, it was it's funny, they went from like S8 and next thing I know they were on S22 or X23. It's like, did they just jump numbers? But you can have a decent streaming setup, and I do a laptop over here just to monitor the stream. I have YouTube on one side and Twitch on the other. That way I can see if things go wrong. But you can just easily, the touch portal's pretty good. There's a couple other programs out there. Fi-Fi now has its own decks. I have a Fi-Fi mic that are half the price of a Elgato. I do not know if you can use Open Deck on them. I have my wife says I have the deck of the Enterprise. She goes, you have the Enterprise up there. Goes, do you really need another monitor again? I said, yeah. When I'm gone, you can get rid of, you can do whatever you want. Who knows how long this is going to last? But, yeah, the one tablet, so this tablet is actually, when I talk about old, and this is my first tablet I had. It's a Galaxy Tab S2. Android 7 on it. You can't go further than Android 7. But the browser works, so with StreamerBot, so this is my StreamerBot deck. So I can do stuff like this instead of having to run it in StreamerBot. So if you have an older tablet and the browser still works, you can use StreamerBot. You can use this as a deck. I used a program called Stream Control, which was really nice. It comes free, but the thing is you can't adjust anything on the tablet. And it'll pick up all your scenes in that and adjust that way. I don't know if he's customized this, but Touch Portal is very customizable. For the paid version, it's $15 US.
Someone has joined the chat on Twitch.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
All right, I fixed the audio there. Antique Mold, how are you? Nice, I'm using a USB MIDI controller to map my hotkeys. This seems way more optimal. I never did use hotkeys, and plus on Linux, it's really hard to use, especially on Wayland. There's a plugin now that can add to OBS. But Wayland, I think because I have so many windows open that the hotkeys, if I'm focused on another window, the hotkey will work for that. I'm just more physical. I like to see the tab in front of me. But with Touch Portal, if you and download it, pay for it. So whatever your username is for Google, whether if it's on your tablet, on your phone, and all that, you can transfer it to your phone. You don't have to pay extra for it. But now with with the paid version, you can do so much other things with it. And I actually got it for $13, $13.99 because I had a $2 off from the Play Store. I can fit so many buttons. I changed more. You know, I was doing it more as a sound deck. Thanks for breaking it down. It's cool seeing the side of spaceship's control deck. Yeah. You know, so just to keep things off the system, that's why I, have the laptop to monitor the streams instead of having it on here. Now I don't keep open YouTube stuff and Twitch stuff on my desktop. I probably should for Twitch. Andy will tell you, I am very horrible about rating. I don't rate out. And I know that's a big part of the Twitch community. You don't rate out, you just say goodbye on YouTube and that's it. But it's nice, having these controls and this deck. I pretty much, like I said, have the same setup on my Linux side when I'm doing on Linux. There'll be a couple that may not work, but like I got this random guy thing, yeah, some of it just don't work, but majority of it does. So I don't have to make multiple decks. One of the problems I'm having with StreamerBot in Linux now that I don't have this problem on Arch on Endeavor OS, but the chat that pops up from StreamerBot, if I move it to another scene, another window, another monitor, it crashes. But it doesn't do that in Arch. It does that on Ubuntu and Wayland and that, so I don't know what the difference is there. So I've been working on that. I think that's cool, doing your own thing. Sometimes I'll raid the audience into another channel and stay live just to mess with them. Yeah, I just, I guess it's a way to build a community. I feel odd about raiding into someone I don't know, although I get it often, on Twitch, people that I don't know raiding me for the first time, which is pretty cool. I should leave Twitch up on here to do that. I don't know. But my deck, I got keys to play stuff on to run things. I have a lot more sound bites on my system than I have on here, and I only have like for the tablet, and this is what. So you have your touch portal programming. You can have many more pages, so you can switch pages around. And you can also, you can use this for Spotify, voice meter. You can use it for GIMP. You can use it for Adobe. They have all these different controllers built into it that you can set up pages for. And you add your stuff here. You can add another button, and it'll immediately pop up on your tablet. So this is the connecting part. And if you close it, it goes into the Yeah, the whatever we call this here on into the Windows thingy to clear that up. Um I still use Social Stream Ninja now. I only use Social Stream Ninja for the icons. But Steve Gurin, the creator of this, has added so much more. He's got pre-style chat overlays that you can do on your stream. I used to use this all the time for my YouTube stream, and then when I was first doing YouTube and Twitch. But now I use the StreamerBot one. You have a multi-stream alert box you can set up. Got global settings. It's got some chat AI services. I got to look at that. This is pretty new. He's got an events dashboard, reactions overlay. You can install this on Windows through an exe, or on Linux, it's in an app image, and I use it both. But basically, I use it for the emotes wall. And I actually have, so I have two emotes walls set up, one that bounces all over it and one that just floats up. Oh my God. You know, the thing about Steve Guerin, Andy, someone says, could you do this? He says, okay. And he puts it in, and it's like almost, a height meter, metadata bar. It's got a tip bar and goal meter. And these are all like through browser sources. Giveaway to like, I have not looked at this for a little this side for a while. There's a graphical map users can enter their location to mark on it. Oh, he's got a credit roll now. There's a leaderboard, a scoreboard, an interactive games, a ticker, a word cloud, custom gift commands, timer, and now he's got Spotify integration. Now, if he had YouTube integration, that'd be great. Not so much for Windows, but for on the Linux side, especially if you use the Flatpak, you're unable to do the music like I do on regular OBS from the Ubuntu side or Windows. And then you can just close this one out, window, let's see, minimize the tray. So that's off. They have very little showing on here. So I have mainly my streamer bot here. And then on this side, so I moved so I'm looking more towards the camera when I'm reading this. And then the YouTube music player, and this is a specific YouTube music player. Let's see, and then this is my smaller monitor that I have just OBS on it. I figured I didn't need a bigger monitor, the bigger monitor taken up with OBS, although sometimes I have problems seeing it. So I can manually do it by clicking on a scene in OBS. I can use my deck to change it, or using voice control. Computer, right monitor.
Here's the right monitor, Steven.
So you can have StreamerBot talk back to you using SpeakerBot. Now on the Linux side, I added voice control using Python and Sox and a couple other sound down something, and then using scripts and OBS CMD installed, because getting SpeakerBot to work on the Linux side is a some people claim that they got it working, but you have to add in the Windows stuff, like, because SpeakerBot on Windows is using Windows voice control. Has there been any news on Linux support for SBot? It's in the works. It's the reason why Nate has changed. You know, it wasn't just going to a dark theme. He had redone this in a way that will lead him to that goal. I don't know how close he is, because he does have some people that will help him, but he is the sole developer of it. Since I have learned to build my own voice control in Linux, and I've done it on Endeavor, on Arch, and now I've done it on Ubuntu based system. A little bit easier on Ubuntu, but you're basically using a virtual environment in a folder. But also, there's this young developer programmer. She developed a program called Speakaboo, because I was getting ready to do my own TTS using Piper, and she had just come out with it. So it's not as full functional as SpeakerBot is, because you can't use AI, but using Piper TTS, you're able to use .onnx files, which are like a lot of home lab systems can uses Piper for voice control, or to speak the commands back to you. I had to develop, and when I say I developed, actually, to piss people off, I wasted some bottled water. I used AI to help me design it. I needed to filter out emojis from a TTS, and I got one. It's not 100%, but it works pretty good. Andy says he's not very open on the whole thing about help or that. I don't know if he's not open to it, but when you make something like that, and I know he had lost his job for a while, so I getting to donate to him, that's I should join his Patreon. Does modern Windows still use Direct Show for video stuff? I've been playing around with it in Windows XP this month to give my webcam cool glitch errors. I don't know. It may, because I know VLC can use it on Windows. So Windows still uses Direct Show, but it's classified as a legacy architecture, while it remains present in Windows 10 and Windows 11 for backward compatibility and older software. Microsoft strongly recommends developers use Media Foundation for all modern applications. Because I know when I tried to capture a capture card in VLC, And that's the one thing about Windows and why it's kind of so bloated in some of the older architecture is because they have so much compatibility for with legacy stuff. Direct show for Win32 apps. So there's some stuff there for you to check out. So I guess one of the issues that Nate would have with something like StreamerBot that uses Windows voice control for StreamerBot, does he try to build that or does he add open source? So like I'm using for my voice control on Linux, I'm using Vosk, which is actually open platform. It works on Windows, Linux, and Mac. So technically my voice control could work in Windows and could work on Mac. And it's actually more responsive because also I have it use UDP to use Speakaboo to, like when I do computer left desktop, computer left monitor, and then Windows will take a while to respond, even though I'm using, I'm using Sappy 5 voices. It'll usually say, here's your window. Like it did work a minute ago. Computer right monitor.
Here's the left monitor, Steven. Here's the right
Okay.
monitor, Steven.
So now all of a sudden she says the left monitor, and then I change, and the right monitor was really quick. That's a problem I have with, like with Sappy Vibe, or if you're using the Monster TTS or anything off of that from SpeakerBot, you're depending on the internet being pretty clear to get those voices back. Whereas on there is a plethora, and that's a big word today. Words are hard. There's a plethora of voices in the ONNX format for like Piper TTS. So Speakaboo is built with Piper TTS, and it just uses the SpeakerBot, StreamerBot WebSocket access, the 127.0.0, that's StreamerBot uses. And StreamerBot thinks Speakaboo is StreamerBot. No, StreamerBot thinks Speakaboo is SpeakerBot. And then I have to do things differently in Linux to get those voices to respond. So then I use the UDP server to read off of when you do here. I think I could show it here. I don't have it set up the same way, but so you have the SpeakerBot actions that you can set up, and this then reads through SpeakerBot. But there's also, if you go to SpeakerBot, there's Speak UDP. So I set this up on my Linux side, and it's actually reading off a text the same way, but it's picking up off the Speakaboo UDP WebSocket. Am I getting too technical there? Yes, it's so chatty and coming alive. Well, I got aliases. I didn't want one word. So in let's see. So you set up a voice command. So can we let's see. Where do I have that? Cancel that. Cancel that. Is it in commands still? Where are... I forget where the... Oh, they're in voice control. So Ubuntu is adding a local for voice recognition in next release. Oh. Who dat? Thanks, Andy. I made Mexican lasagna last night. All right, where are we? Right monitor here. So the command is, the full command is, computer and then the command, but it's not quite a wake word. So on Vosk and Linux, I set up in the script the wake word command, and then there's a list of OBS commands that run the scenes that I want changed by voice. I don't put all my scenes in there, just my main scenes in there. Imagine if they use Leonard Nimoy's voice and they could call it Spockbot. Oh. So, there is some software. I know you can do it on Windows. I'm pretty sure you can do it on Linux too. You can download some AI software that will work local on your computer, doesn't go out, but you can take voices and make it, because I didn't make them, but I do have Data, I have Picard, I have a Trump one, I have K9 from Doctor Who, I have Hal from 2001 Space Odyssey, I have Bobby from King of the Hill. Those were already made. You can find a bunch of those in Onyx, and they're a real good format, and they're pretty much immediate because they're on your system. The Sappy 5, so I know Sappy 5, you can change it. So Sappy 5 comes with Zira and David. Both kind of horrible voices. But I found a program on GitHub that actually takes Windows, especially Windows 11 voices that would come from Azure that you download to your system and convert them to Sappy 5. So because of the conversion, like the female voice that I'm using for my scene changes, she's one of the Sappy 5 converted voices. So I think that's why it takes so long. But you can clone some other voices. Now, whether you're right and wrong in doing that, there's a bunch out there. And then Piper comes with a bunch themselves, in English, all sorts of languages in that. It's pretty cool. So Leonard Nimoy would be a pretty decent one. But yeah, You know, Andy, I have a bunch of TTSs on my Linux side that I can't have on my Windows side. Now I should look. I think you might be able to install Speakaboo on Windows. I'll have to look at that. And if that's the case, I would replace. Sorry, Nate. I would replace SpeakerBot with Speakaboo. So Mexican lasagna, that's interesting. So it's a simple recipe, corn tortillas. You're going to take the tortillas, and what I do is I little vegetable oil on them, and I kind of lightly fry them so they're not crisp, but they're more sturdy, they don't break apart. Then I'll take refried beans and layer that on top of the tortillas, then taco meat on top of that, and then cheese on top of that. Now you can change it up. You can add onions and green pepper. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing, Andy. If I said I made it, it's a thing. Not my own recipe, but I adapt to it. Now you can add onions and peppers and other stuff to the layers if you want. But I tend to just keep it simple. The tortilla, beans, meat, cheese, tortillas, bean, meat, cheese. Oh, enchilada sauce, red enchilada sauce.
Steve, someone has joined the chat on YouTube.
Hello.
Razor, oh my God, a blast from the past. Been a while, yes it has, flat out with work the last few months. You still working in the bars? So Razor is an old Linux community member. He's been around a while. Good to see you, Ray. So yeah, so you keep layering them. So I had I used a round baking dish. I did 3 tortillas on each layer. So you lay the enchilada sauce at the bottom of the pan, then a little, then the tortillas, beans, meat, cheese. Tortilla, beans, meat, cheese. Tortillas, beans, meat. Then dump the rest of the enchilada sauce over them and then cover it with cheese and bake it for about 20 minutes. It's pretty good. I do a lot of the cooking in the house. My wife does the breakfast and the baking, and I'll do the cooking. She'll cook once in a while. Yep, Bray is doing longer shifts, though, usually 6 a.m. before I get home. Yeah, but you've been doing that life for a long time, huh, Ray? So how you been? Good to have you stop in. Appreciate it. I love when and it's not really that long ago, right? But I've been doing this for 8 years. I'm not so much into the technical stuff, like the Linux. I do Linux. I stream both Windows and Linux. Currently, I'm on Windows. I've been actually streaming on Windows for 2 years. I went back to Windows, not full time. I still use Linux as my daily driver. Windows is only my stream platform, but I'll stream on Windows and Linux during the week. Not too bad otherwise. Still on Linux, but don't mess with it as much now. Yeah, if you Tony stops in, and a lot of people from the older community will stop in. A lot of us have stopped doing that. I started looking at distros again, just mainly because I have been on Arch. I've been on Endeavor OS for the last couple years. And I have a nice setup on Endeavor OS. I use the OBS from the AUR, put together by Titan, who is one of the helpers in the OBS forum. So it's not officially supported, but because Titan puts together, they'll help you with it if you have problems. But I'm looking to go back to Ubuntu, one, because most of my plugins I get from the AUR. And a lot of them Titan also packages up, so I'm sure those are okay. But with the attack on the AUR, now I'm like a little. So I'm looking at going back to an Ubuntu system, but then trying to find Ubuntu that isn't snap loaded and all that stuff. And I think I may have found one. Your peppermint machine is out of action, so you've been using Solodex on a laptop? Not heard of it. Do you still use your older version of peppermint, or have you gone? I haven't kept up really with the community since I kind of left. Not since I stopped doing Linuxy content as far as distros and that. I know Peppermint is still going strong. It's in the top 50 for distro watch still. But Debian, I couldn't stream off of Debian. I could not get a good OBS in there. The flat pack, forget about that. It's the older one before the rebrand. Yeah, that was I don't know. I probably, if things didn't happen to Mark, I would probably still be using Peppermint. And I know I just tried to get the official OBS installed. Andy wanted to try Debian, but it would have to build too many packages. Yeah, I get it. It's stable in that, but they're updating things a lot quicker these days now. And I know you can build. I don't want to do that building stuff. I started doing it on Endeavor, and then it's starting to maintain it and work, rock solid and it's flexible. But I just want to stream. I don't want to maintain a lot of stuff too. Just call me lazy. So, but I mean, it's I mostly now these days just shoot the bull. I do on Tuesdays. I do stuff with Linux. Most of my streaming is off of Windows. I do GeoGuessr stuff on Thursdays. I do this, it's not the Linux Sunday Coffee Klatch anymore. It's just a Coffee Klatch. We end up talking about tech and that too. Yeah, I tried to, when I was using the new Peppermint, I tried to set up and use the SID repo. In fact, the team was pretty nice at the time. They packaged which was the official version of OBS at the time, was 27. And they did a specific package for me. That was really nice of them, but I couldn't expect that all the time. I almost thought about it I was trying to install Linux on my wife's Asus E200H. I was talking about it earlier. It's got a 32-bit EFI and a 64-bit system on a 32-bit or 32 gig eMMC, 4 gigs of memory. But I went with Linux Lite on it. And actually, I used Ventoy to install it, and it's all gone pretty well. Linux Lite has come a long way. There are some issues with installing it. They have an issue with the repo key. that they haven't fixed. And they added snaps, which is easy enough to remove. But then you got to create a, what is it, an ETC? You got to create a file to block the snap stuff from being installed later on. I mean, being on Arch, you can update that every day. But now I just keep it down to, I just update it once a week, if that. Snaps always makes me think of the Internet Explorer times. I'm sure there's really nothing wrong with snaps, but I went to install Chromium on Linux Lite for my wife because she's used to a Chrome-based browser. And as I'm watching the install process, next thing I know, it's switching over to snaps. I'm like, when the fuck did this happen? And on this system only being 32 gigs of, 32 gigs of storage, which after the install, there's like, even with Linux Lite, I did some cleaning up. I got 17 gigs open. I don't want it filled up. Normally I use Flatpaks, but I have plenty of room on my systems. With 32 gigs, or 17 gigs of open storage, I'm not going to fill that laptop up with Flatpaks nor snaps. The snaps can, they can get pretty big too, because they're all self-contained. They just bogged down Ubuntu and massively blow up the ISO size, yeah. So I've been looking at this new Ubuntu-based system called Anduin OS, Anduin. A lighter weight, it's a GNOME desktop. And he put in extensions and all that, and he uses the Fluent theme. You can make it look like Windows 10, kind of. I actually have mine set up in the middle, like Windows 11, or basically like Chrome OS. Because I use a lot of extensions. I like GNOME. I could not get into KDE. It looks nice, but no way you use it because it's a boot. But he ripped out all the snaps. He's on version 2.0, which is running GNOME 50, the Ubuntu 2604 packages, the Linux 7 kernel, and all that. He's did some changing here. And basically, this is all he's got. The extensions to do it. And actually, I did this on my Endeavor OS GNOME. I was a little pissy at first because of I don't have this issue with running. I run StreamerBot.
Steve, someone has joined the chat on YouTube.
Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?
Barco. Is that KDE? No, this is a GNOME-based system. It's Anduin OS. Better off with Katie and Neptune, but Neptune is Debian, isn't it? I don't want Debian. I don't want Debian. Debian's no good for me with streaming. And KDE, I know what I'm getting with the extensions that I'm downloading and that. The settings in KDE are just. Is that Ricky on the voice alert? No, that is actually I recorded that off of 11IO. I recorded some voices on the for announcing. Welcome back, Barco. How are you? So I was looking. So it's very lightweight. I actually have it running. I have the version 1.1.12 running on my 8440, my HP laptop here, and it's running really quick. You're currently using Neri. I don't want to. All that Neri, Hyperland, all that bullshit. I want it simple enough for me to use for my streaming. You use i3M? Nah, not me. I don't even set up Tiling Manager in that. But he's got all the snaps ripped out of here. He just uses Flatpak. I actually was looking at Voyager again. And I don't know what it is with Voyager, but the old like the Ubuntu Ubiquity installer and that, to me, after using systems that use calamares, Ubiquity sucks, but there's crashes in that. Because I want it to stay from any, like Kubuntu, Ubuntu, anything that I would have to rip out. Because they use a lot of snaps in their stuff, not as much as Ubuntu it does. Yeah, Dubois, yeah, I read the French one. They have XFCE on a Voyager, and then they have the GNOME version on Voyager. I'm sorry, I'm a GNOME user. I remember back in the early days, I hated GNOME. But I developed my Peppermint desktop with it turns out to be a GNOME-like environment. So I just moved into GNOME right after that. Yes, I use extensions. I don't use GNOME Vanilla. I know with GNOME updates that extensions can break and all that, but a lot of times it's just the extensions will still work, but there's a dating thing on it. You can a date stamp, best as I can explain it. And I just run a command that blocks that, and the extensions still work. We had an Ubuntu build which used an XP level of memory, had OpenBox as its WM, and Cairo as the dock, menu, and launcher in one. Yeah, I've used Cairo before. So, Barco, what you're seeing is you're on YouTube, Andy's on Twitch. So I have I use a program called StreamerBot for my stream controls and that. So I can do stuff like, I can have things pop up on my screen. Like this old guy cleaning. Come on, get out of the way. Oh, come on. What don't laugh at my friends. Don't be an asshole. So Steve Areno Robot is my bot that's coming. Andy is over on Twitch. Just reply to Andy. He'll see it. So that way the two chats can talk to each other. And you don't have to look at the screen to read their chat. Andy switched from Arch to Fedora recently after the Arch disaster. I made a statement to myself. Yeah, of course, using stuff from the AUR. I don't use a lot of stuff. My stuff is all related to OBS. So I use on my Endeavor OS, I use the OBS. It's OBS-Studio-Titan 642 is the install. He's one of the helpers on the OBS forum. So even though it's not official, yeah, I'm not reading the channel logs either all the time, But I know his stuff is okay. It's not going to be taken over. He packages a number of the plugins too for the AUR, for the Linux side, but there are a few number of them that someone else packages, and those are the ones that I'm afraid of, because I use on Endeavor, I have 32 plugins. Now, I did one plugin I did compile myself, but then I don't want to do every plugin and recompile it. I'm just lazy. That's not me. It's fun once in a while. Endeavor is what Barco switched over after Eric ended Eric Arco. Yeah, what is his new one? Oh, yeah, what is his new one? And you ditched Arco after he ended it. Yeah, I can't remember his new. I'm not finding it here, but yeah, I see it. I see that he started making videos again. Is he calling it Nemesis? Nemesis or something like that. So you tried out his Kiro distro of Arch on a mini PC and it's not quite ready yet. SDDM issues, so Windows. Okay. I think Eric was going to be done doing distros, then he discovered Claude Code and that inspired his return. And you usually avoid Arch because distros generally don't last too long. Well, I mean, Endeavor's been going for... Well, they took over from... what was it called? Which some people are trying to bring back under the same name, but it's not the same. But I was surprised. I actually had Endeavor on 4 systems here at home. I never would have thought even that I would be on any type of Arch. But it's been fun. But Endeavor is my daily driver, but I'm looking to be specific with my streaming. Eric cranks out a new tool every month now for maintaining Arch. Latest is a fish config. Andy tested Fedora for a week in a VM before. In the end, one might say that all the distros are not very different. Slap a GNOME on top and the user experience is just the same. As long as you're not a Tigger. Exactly. So, that's the issue, So there are some good, decent distros out there, depending on what you want to do. If I'm looking at it from the way I stream and the way I want to stream and what system I want it on. What's the easiest and best way is to be on an Ubuntu-based system, because all the plugins that are made for an Ubuntu-based system, unless you want to build those packages yourself, which if you are a decent, programmer or whatever, or you're used to it and that's been your thing forever, you will have no problem doing that. I don't want to do that. I've tried it. I work. I mean, it's enough that I'm making a voice control for my OBS stuff on Arch. I'm doing it on Ubuntu and that, things that I haven't done before. I don't want to maintain everything. I don't. Hero is the new Eric's. Nemesis is the repo. Okay, gotcha. Antergos. Yes, there's a new Antergos coming out. But it's not based, it's not from anybody that was on a team before. They're just using the name. Which I think the old Antergos people reached out and said, hey, what are you doing? Every time you try CachyOS, it doesn't feel right too, Ubuntu Manjaro-like. Yeah, but you know why everybody's going to Cachy? The 2 big distros right now are Cachy, especially for people coming over for Windows, are CachyOS and Bazite. Why? Because of the gaming aspect. And they want to game and stream at the same time. Well, then those that are on Cachy are trying like Hyperland or something like that. And then the portals don't work right. And you have to find a workaround, and people get pissed off. On the OBS forum during the week, some guy was asking about that. He's on Hyperland and can't get window capture to work. And you have to do something with Hyperland to fix it. And one of the helpers said, you got to talk to the Hyperland devs. And the guy just replied, fuck you. Like, you asshole. It's not, it's a Hyperland issue. It's a Windows portal issue. It's not an OBS issue. I'm surprised the guy kept his cool, There are a lot of assholes that are like that, but gaming work just as well on other distros. Yes, they do. But that's the hype. Cachy, because of the different kernels in that you can use, and Bazite. But then trying to get, you're either going to use, in most cases, the Flatpak. Now, the Flatpak OBS it works. If you don't do all the stuff that I do, like Nate, just doing Linux Saloon, just something simple, 1 or 2 plugins that you can get in a Flatpak design, you are fine. But I don't. I use 30 plus plugins. Only 15 of them are designed for a Flatpak. Can I force some of them to work in a Flatpak? Yes, but then the major ones like YouTube Music, or not YouTube Music, but Tunaport, VLC is not incorporated with the Flatpak. You can't use VLC stuff in OBS on a Flatpak. Will StreamerBot work with the Flatpak? Yeah, it will. But then you're limited on the plugins and that, which most of the people in OBS will say you don't need. But I say, You haven't touched the distro since the original Solus was canceled? Yeah. So I'm looking at it from the aspect of how can I get my streaming the way I want to do it? And I'm not going for that. Well, if it doesn't work on Linux, then I'm not going to use it, or I won't worry about it. I know I'm not going to get what I have on Windows onto Linux 100%, but I've come pretty damn close. I've come pretty damn close. I have a couple things that work a little bit better on Linux, but majority of stuff works better on Windows. But that's just me, I do things differently. I do things how I want to. The way I streamed in the past with very little actions, just maybe a title and my name, or name of the stream, that was fine. But I discovered StreamerBot and my whole world changed. Yeah, sometimes it's a headache. And you can actually build a lot of stuff through using the advanced scene switcher, because it's so calling it the advanced scene switcher is what would be the term, misnomer? It does more than advanced scenes. You've been doing 99% of your work on Linux, just VSTs on Windows. I keep 10 around. Oh, and that's been a challenge, because in OBS it's a Ceph issue, a Chromium Embedded Framework issue. On Wayland, you can't get custom docs to work. So like if I built a doc, or the docs that come with if you sign into YouTube or if you sign into Twitch, you're not going to get those on a Wayland environment. And also you're not going to be able to get VSTs to work because you can't open those windows to control the VSTs. So now I've had to learn about easy effects and create voice changes, because this is some of the things too that I can do. Where's my here. I can go into a hologram, and my voice changes, because on here on Windows, I'm using a voice changer to make it sound like a hologram. But you can't get, if you're running Wayland in Linux, you can't get voices to change. You can't use VSTs. You can try to use voice changers, but I have not found a voice changer that I can hook up with my OBS properly. So I created profiles in Easy Effects and run my mic on OBS through Easy Effects. And I created scripts to change those voices, and that's been... every time you check the latest additions and new to waiting list distros on the lower left sidebar of Distro Watch, it's Debian, Debian, Debian. Year or two ago, more Arch. Don't know what the flip is. I guess I would think that actually Debian is getting quicker with releases, right? They seem to, there's a little more hardware enablement, a little bit more advanced in the kernel. Correct me if I'm wrong. And people are, I think, the old Ubuntu is becoming Microsoft thing, and everybody forgets that, we use these distros. We may donate, but we use these distros for free. They create them. They can do whatever they want to them, whether we think it's right or wrong. But on the Linux side, we get all DJ 506.
Steve, someone has joined the chat on Twitch.
Did my sound go through? Hey, DJ, what's up? Oh, now we got Canada in here, eh? Oh, you hoser. What's up, my friend? Talking about technobabble. If you think that I use a lot of stuff and set up things, goddamn DJ 506 makes me look like a plain user. Excuse me. He makes me look like a plain user. The stuff that he does on his stream, but he's a DJ. He's got to keep his stuff interesting. But StreamerBot changed my whole perspective on streaming. It's like, let me check this out. Oh, I can install, and I installed it on Wine. It took me a while to get it to work properly in that. But now I got it down. I can work. I have my setup on Windows. I have my same, pretty much the same setup on Linux. You need to distract people from the horrible DJing. And he says it works. And then also, I know on the Linux side, people are saving old laptops and stuff like that. And half of them you can barely run OBS on without a plugin. Moth to Flames. Oh. All right, Andy. Well, thank you for the 8 months. You shouldn't have. You didn't have to. I love you, Andy. I hope it cools down for you there over in Germany. My wife's going to be heading to work soon, and I'm probably going to end this. My son's having a friend over, so no. If you feel you must, Andy. No, I appreciate your support. I have to support more people. But my plan is as I get supported and I start getting these these massive Twitch payouts, I'm going to use them on my for other streamers. Take care, Andy. Finally cool there. Yeah, I heard you guys had, it's been a lot of warm weather. We're getting warm weather this coming week, starting tomorrow. Actually, it's 11 o'clock here, and we're already at 81. Or down here, I have, you'll see it. Why do you have the temp in that? Let's face it, a lot of the people that watch me are from Europe. So it's what, 24C already? That, if I'm reading that, I can't. I have it on, it's very small down there. But we're going to be in the hundreds this week. That's our heat index. That's humid. A combination of heat and humidity. It's going to be fun. We're going to go broke next week on air conditioning and that. Oh my. So DJ, you part of No Pants Sunday this week? Hey DJ, I know you like Affinity. Or Alinity. Do you like redheads? You lie good, but you've been DJing 9 straight. Oh, you know, no, as in no part of No Pants Sunday. Not about Alinity. 9 straight days. Wow. Check out Faith. You didn't hear that from me. Just check out Faith. That's all she has, Faith. But I don't keep any of that in my background when I'm streaming. When my wife is in the house. That's when my wife is in the house. Oh my. I'm not looking forward to this week. We'll see how hot it gets. We'll see how the air conditioner works. We'll see if I have to turn off the computer this week. Speaking of DJing, I have a mashup I need to finish. You're aware of Faith? You believe she's Canadian? What is it? All these girls on Twitch follow the same thing. Now all of a sudden it's like dominatrix, you know, kind of you're gonna pay me kind of thing going on right now. Makes me not want to. I don't watch a lot of that stuff to begin with, but even Faith is doing that. Now, Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know it's been a while. You were bartending, right? But are you also a DJ? DJ 506 on Twitch is one of the many. That's a big thing. I think because that was the thing about the booby streamers, and they still do, but they're not forefront anymore, because I'm all for anybody doing what they can to stream and make money and things like that, right? But when it was like OnlyFans light, still work bars, but DJing, radio, and production. Okay, that's it. I knew there was some music in there somewhere with you. But yeah, it's why a lot of those that follow me on the Linux side on YouTube won't come to Twitch, because of the girls. Or they're just jealous because I'm not showing, or they're unhappy because I'm not showing my moves. But yeah, they're not forefront anymore. But majority of them also, that you know, it's like, this is my introduction. You know, here's what you can kind of see. Now, if you go to OnlyFans or Fansly or something like that, you can see even more, pay even more. Again, and it's not, you know, whatever they want to do. Well, Twitch also changed my whole idea of streaming. YouTube is not my main platform anymore. I well, I'll be honest, and I don't make content that great for YouTube. I still have I put a lot of my stuff in private right now from past Linux stuff. I've re-released some. But a lot of my Linux stuff is now 5 years old. You can probably use some. A lot of it was on XFCE and Peppermint, but you still do maybe some of the XFCE stuff and that. But I was never able to get. I have 862 followers, and I can never get above that. Now, I don't have nearly that many followers on Twitch, but Twitch makes it easier to somewhat get monetized. Now, I haven't seen any, great results in that, but yeah, I get the content part in that. And everybody's streaming, and you can't support everybody, but you do your best. But I look at Twitch. Twitch is made for streamers, whereas you can't stream on YouTube. YouTube is made for video content. There is no real interaction that you can do in YouTube for streaming. What, in the chat, you got the little floating hearts and all that? You get more unfollows than I do followers lately? Yeah, I mean, the whole environment is changing. I mean, I don't do this, it's cool that I became an affiliate. It's a progress that I made. I don't expect a whole lot out of it, but I do this for me, for my mind. I'm going to be 70 this year. How many people going to be 70? There's a few streamers out there. But all this creating that I'm doing and all that helps up here. Follower numbers really mean nothing. Yeah, the people who actually show up mean the most. I mean, here, over on YouTube, Ray was part of the, Peppermint community and Linux community. And for years, he see me, he stops in, he says hi, he's here. That's, to me, that's a lot. That means a lot. I do enjoy this. I do enjoy the creating in that. And I appreciate everybody that comes and says hi to me. And then when I leave, when I'm done for the day, oh, you guys can go to hell. No, I know. But my wife is going to be getting ready for work, and she's going to be leaving really soon, so I am going to say hi to her.
Do a barrel roll.
Oh. Oh, glad I didn't eat yet, but that coffee's, oh my. Well, I appreciate it, Ray. I really do. I love when some of you old time, and I know you're not old, but I'll see, when the old timers show up, and it means a lot. It means a lot. So thank you very much. But I am going to get ready to go. Oh, 2 hours and 20 minutes. So if you want to see, if you want to see what I'm doing on Linux, come by Tuesday. Let's take a look out for me. Usually out of bed and straight to work. I'm retired now. Oh yeah, I'm retired for be 3 years come November. I'm done with that shit. But I am going to unfortunately get ready to go. Let's move to my thank you theme. All right. I want to thank Andy, who's resubscribed. Thank you, Andy. DJ506 has decided to waste a channel point. I want to thank SiriBot. Why does SiriBot show up there? Over on the YouTube site, Andy242, Antique Mold, and DJ506. And Ray over on the YouTube site. And Barco. Can't forget Barco. Barco is an old time. Barco shows up. Thank you, Barco. So Tuesday I will be doing, I was going to try to stream Tuesday with my Linuxy stuff. I'm working on another install. So maybe we'll work on that. I've done stuff on the side. Now I got to start matching up to StreamerBot. But anyway, thank you for visiting. Thank you for coming by. Thank you for the points. Thank you for everything. Love you guys. Take care.